That's the life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. Gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loomis rod. I bet you like what you feel. Step on deck, give it a whirl. Hello, welcome to my world.
What's going on, all you Facebook Live and YouTube Live fishing freaks? JR is doing yard work, got his lawnmower stuck. So he's working on that. He may or may not join us this evening. But those of you guys out there, welcome to this episode of On Another Line Live here on Tuesday, 6/10/2025. Thank you guys for joining us. Couple of things. We weren't live last week just for the simple fact that I was actually fishing and JR had some stuff going on, so we decided to punt and boot until this week. Got a lot of things to talk about over the last couple weeks that has happened, good and bad, and we also are talking about a really awesome tournament that's taking place this Saturday at Yatesville. We'll talk about that in just a second. So over the last few weeks, I've had an absolute run of epic proportions in tournaments. Finished first in Pedro the other day at Yatesville. Fished the Marathon Bass Club on that Thursday following. Ended up finishing second there on that tournament. JR and I fished Pedro, we fished Marathon on Thursday at Grayson and ended up finishing third there. So first, second, third. Hopefully we work our way back up. Don't want to fish any further than third. But it's been a pretty good week, other than the fact that I've had some issues with my boat. We'll talk about that in just a second. What's up, Tony? Thanks for joining, man. I appreciate it. Again, if you're just not joining us, JR may or may not make it in this evening. He is had some issues. I think he told me he had his lawnmower stuck in his yard. So he's got that taken care of. He may join us. If not, it's all right. We'll get him next week. This week coming up is one of the coolest tournaments that we get the opportunity to fish. Brian and the folks at Marathon Bass Club, or their Bass League, put on an excellent tournament every year called the Veterans and First Responders Tournament. With that being said, it is this Saturday. So let me grab this flyer here and I will show it to you guys in just a second. It's an awesome deal. You do have to have you either have to be a veteran or a first responder, or have one in your boat. And that is the deal. Other than that, pretty much run-of-the-mill stuff. No forward-facing sonar, so it's all of the. Let me grab this. All of the it's an even playing field for everybody. If you don't have forward-facing sonar, first off, you'll know if you fish Yatesville a lot that Yatesville is quickly becoming a forward-facing sonar-dominated lake. Just for the simple fact that the folks out there really catch them. But here is the flyer for the 4th Annual Veteran and First Responder Bass Tournament. Again, this Saturday, June 14th, 2025, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Yatesville Lake Main Marina. No live scope or FFS. That means you're not going to be able to use 360. I'm almost certain it's going to be no live sonar, so no 360, no active target, no Mega Live, and no Garmin LVS 3234-ish things. So again, it's one of those things that it kind of evens the playing field. So Yatesville it's going to be it should be a pretty good tournament, to be honest with you. Yatesville has been on fire lately. I think Cameron Dial was in there the other day and won a tournament with almost 18 pounds, which is crazy. But the fact of the matter is that it's a great tournament, huge payout for what it is. I don't know what the payout is going to be like this year. You can see the entry is $50. JR and I finished third last year and won like $650 or $700. So that's crazy money. I think the guy who won it had big fat bass and won the tournament with one fish, won like $2,300. It's crazy amounts of money paid out for a $50 tournament. And also, if you're a veteran or a first responder, you are available for some door prizes that they give away. Matter of fact, last year there was way more door prizes than there were people in the tournament. So hopefully we can fix that this year, get some more people there. I would love to tell you that I'm going to be there, but I am not. I actually have Savannah Banana tickets this Saturday or Friday coming up. So there's no way that I'll be back in time for that. One thing that I will say is that JR was supposed to fish with he was going to fish with Jared Sloan, and Jared had something come up, so he ended up having to back out. So if you would like to fish a tournament this weekend with JR in his boat, he's got a super nice boat, a Phoenix PHX or 21 PHX, one of the nicest boats I've ever been in. I'm sure he would love to have you in there, so reach out to me or him, and I'll get you involved with that. Again, it is this Saturday coming up. And JR is needing a partner. I will not be there. Jared had some stuff come up, so he's not going to be able to fish either. So if you're looking for, if you'd like to take part in the tournament, but you are not either a first responder or a veteran, JR is a first responder, so that takes care of that. So he can take care of that for you guys as far as getting that stuff done. So with that being said, this Saturday, great tournament, $50, great time. If you're a veteran, first responder, or know somebody that is, hop in the boat, go pay your $50 and throw your name in a hat in an awesome tournament. Mike French, what's up? LVS 34. Yeah. Let me know, man. We'll go out and I'll show you what I know about it. Mine's dialed in pretty good. I think the biggest thing about any kind of forward-facing sonar is clean power. Larry Slack in the house. What's up, man? Yeah, Tony, and that's the deal. Like I think I'd rather fish. Well, so this is going to be a one and done for me. Misty and I have already talked about it. Savannah Bananas would be great. It's going to be an awesome time. Matter of fact, if you guys don't know what Savannah Bananas are, I don't know, I don't want to use them like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball because that's not it at all. They have created their own version of baseball, which is really daggone cool. And there's so many people that want to see these games that you have to actually put your name in for a lottery to even be able to buy these tickets. They're coming to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. I was lucky enough to get some tickets, so I bought 4 of them. And I should have bought 6, to be honest with you, because I could have sold them to somebody, no problem. Once I got my 4 tickets, I got an email about 15 minutes later that they sold out the entirety of Great American Ballpark, which is the Cincinnati Reds Stadium. So you could tell it's crazy that there's so many people want to see that. But again, it's a one and done thing for me. I think it's going to be fun to see it at once. And if they become more popular, and I guess I don't know how they could be any more popular, but I think I saw sometimes that they're going to start live streaming their games via pay-per-view. I would definitely be interested in watching it that way, especially if I can set up my house and watch them, because I love the idea of it. I really like the whole idea of it. Like, for example, there's nobody that walks. If you get the 4th ball, the batter just takes off running. Everybody on the field, as far as the defense, has to touch the ball before they can actually tag the guy out. So it's a pretty cool deal. There's a lot of cool rules that they've created, and it just makes a game. First off, I love baseball. I played baseball all my life. Played softball after that, slow pitch, and just one of those things that was really fun for me. But this adds another level to it. So that's why I'm going on this Friday to check them out. We're staying all night. There's no way I'll be back in time for the tournament. What's up, Gary? How you doing, buddy? Man, so I am right there in that same boat with you, to be honest with you. There's sometimes I can catch them, and sometimes I can't. The guys that do catch them, like Cameron Dials, and there's about 6 people, 4 people maybe, that you can consistently find catching fish on LiveScope. Now, if the fish aren't biting, you're going to find those people not coming in with any fish, because most of those people are just they're forward-facing sonar or nothing. And I kind of like to think that I'm kind of like a happy medium of both. The last 3 tournaments that we've fished, I finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in 3 tournaments, and I never used forward-facing sonar one time. So it was really cool. Which brings me to one of the things that I would like to tell you guys right now, if you guys are not throwing topwater in our area right now, if you have cicadas in your area, I don't care. I talked to Kyle. He lives in Dayton, Ohio, which is about 3 hours north of me, 2.5 hours north of me. He claims that there's 0 cicadas up there. And the farther you go south, the more you're going to see them and get into them. But if you have cicadas, that 17-year hatch that's crazy, you hear all the screaming in the trees and stuff, if you're not throwing topwater, you are missing out. I've had so much fun over the last 2 weeks throwing topwater on Yatesville and Grayson. Matter of fact, the other day at Grayson, I had one of the most epic days I've ever had in my entire life out there. It wasn't that I caught absolute, tons of fish. I mean, I did catch a ton of fish. I caught like 20 fish. But I caught one that was over 5 pounds. I caught one that was 4 pounds. And I caught another one that was 3.5, all on a Rapala skitter pop. I'm talking like 1990 model skitter pop that I had dug in my. I just like, it's the only popper I had in my boat for some reason. So I picked it up, tied it on, started throwing it, and just absolutely started whacking them on it. And I posted a video or a post the other day about it, and I kind of covered up the photo of covered up the bait that I was using. But again, it was just a skitter pop. I think they come in a 5, 7, or a 9. I think it was a 7. It's not 7-inch. That's a 7 size. But I was throwing the heck out of it. But one of the things that kind of threw people off on that post, I'm sure, is that I was talking about the rod that I was throwing it on, which was an 847C CBR. And if you're not familiar with how G Loomis works, there's a lot of people that aren't, including myself when I very first got into them. You hear a lot of gibberish, or you hear a lot of people talking about a lot of numbers instead of saying like a 7.2 heavy or 7.4 heavy or 7.5 heavy like that. G Loomis has their own nomenclature, if you will. It's 3 numbers. Like, for example, the 847 is the rod that I was using. The first 2 numbers are the length in inches. So it's an 84-inch rod, which means it's 7 foot. And then the next number is the power, 4 power, or 7 power is what I had, an 847. Normally, a 4 power on Loomis rods is a heavy. So you would think 5 is going to be an extra heavy, 6 is an extra heavy, and a 7 power would be, oh my God, he's throwing a board. And it's kind of different because if you're talking about a JWR, which stands for jig worm rod, you would be absolutely correct. That thing would be this big around and would be stiff as a board because it would be like a triple X heavy. But the CBR at the end of that is a crankbait rod. I throw all my topwater baits on a 7 power crankbait rod. So a 7 power crankbait rod is a heavy version of a crankbait rod, but it's not that heavy. It's built differently. It has different graphite in it. It has a mixture of the blank differences, so it actually is a little misleading. But if you're looking for a really cool topwater rod, the 847C CBR not only, so I throw it in an IMX Pro, but they have it in pretty much all their series. Always, I think it goes all the way down to the GCX. And it's just a 7 foot, 7 power crankbait rod, but man, it is sweet for topwater. Yeah, Mike, I wish, bud. Got a lot of stuff going on right now. So, which brings me to another point because Aaron Strickland's in the house. What's up, buddy? You were right. Buzzbait, whopper plopper. I've caught him on an actual popper. Let's see, what else have I caught them? Oh, torpedo has been great. I've caught some fish on Yatesville on a spook. Absolutely kill it out there. But let's kind of transition back into last Thursday. So JR and I are fishing with the Marathon Bass League. We're fishing at Grayson Lake. Went out there, didn't think we had a chance to win it, but that was Thursday. I had one heck of a day on Monday of that week, so I went out there. Long story short, we ended up catching enough fish to finish third, but prior to that, we are heading back in on my boat. And we get to Little Gimlet there on Grayson Lake, which I don't know how far that is from the main marina to there, but I'm guessing it's 5-6 miles probably at least. And from Little Gimlet all the way back to the ramp, we had to idle my boat because I dropped another injector on my E-Tech. This right now, so once I have one more extra injector that I'm going to be replacing tomorrow. Now, once I get that injector replaced, this is going to be the 9th injector that I've put on my boat. Now, it only has 6 injectors on it because it's a V6 two-stroke, but I've put 3. I've this number 6 cylinder that I'm getting ready to replace, will be the 3rd time since I've owned this boat since the injector has been changed. There's a lot of stuff that goes on to that. First off, one of those is the fact that they're $600 a piece. So you can do the math there. That's a load of money that I've dumped into this motor. You always hear people talk about how crappy Evinrudes are. And I'm in that boat now. Up until now, it's been a great motor. Everything's good. And most of the stuff that happened has been self-inflicted. Like I had Aaron Strickland put in a new prop shaft for me last summer because I bent the prop shaft down in Falls Lake. Actually, you saw that on the video. So Aaron fixed me up there. Got everything going on, and it's ran great since then. Actually, it did not. It was so I put that prop shaft in there, ran it about a month, dropped an injector. Couldn't find any injectors. They don't make them anymore. Evinrude's been out of business for like 4 or 5 years now. So all of the new parts that are out there are gone, and the injectors that you can find are used injectors from other states. I ended up buying 6 of them from Florida. I ended up having them cleaned twice by 2 different companies because I took it to Blaine Schwartzel at Schwartzel's Marine, and he didn't know that I had them cleaned, so he sent them off and had them get cleaned again. So now I have 6 injectors that I buy from Florida, send all 6 of them off. The second time getting cleaned, the people in Maine, I think it is, or New Hampshire, it's called Barnacle Bills, I think, cleans them. They determined that 2 of my injectors that I bought were actually bad, so that leaves me with 4. Took it to Blaine Schwartzel. He actually got everything going, reprogrammed the new used injector, got my boat going, and it's ran since August of last year all the way until Thursday just fine. Everything's been going good, runs just as fast as it ever did. We're talking 71 to 73 miles an hour with 2 people and 3/4 of a tank of fuel. So that's plenty fast enough for me on the water. We're coming back in, and I let off the throttle, and we come off pad. And if you've ever been in a Stratus, and like most older bass boats, some of the new bass boats like Nitro and Camus and a few other boats, you can just let off the throttle and just coast to a stop. But most boats, like a Bullet or my Stratus, or I don't know other boats, but the older stuff, if you don't like gas the throttle a little bit when you're coming off pad, it just swamps the back of the boat. Does on my Stratus anyway. So long story short, we're coming off pad, and right when we're getting ready to, I'm trying to get it to where I'm not going to swamp the back of my deck, hit the hot foot, and it just didn't have any power. So I knew exactly what that meant. Didn't have any, had an injector that was down. So we idled from Little Gimlet all the way back to the ramp. And at this point, we had 4 fish that were all under the slot limit. So if you're unfamiliar with how this works, Grayson is now a slot limit lake, meaning that you can keep anything up to 12 inches, or 11 7/8, I guess. 12 to 15 inches is a protected slot limit. You can't take those, you can't keep them, you can't do anything, or you can keep them above 15 inches. So we had the idea that we were going to keep, our limit of small fish no matter what, because we were going to take them out of there. Brian actually has a farm pond. He was stocking some stuff, so he told me, whatever, the small fish, definitely bring them in. He's going to take them no matter what. So, because we can have 10 fish in the boat. Like myself and JR, we can have 5 fish each, as a limit. We can only weigh in 5, but if I had 5 underfish in my live well, it would still be, on the up and up as far as the game warden goes. So we have 4 fish that are under the limit, and we have to idle from Little Gimlet all the way back to the main marina. So it took us probably 2 hours to do that, to idle all the way back to the main marina. Well, we get all the way back there at 9:30 in the evening. Still got 4 fish. I am freaking just throttled because my boat's jacked up again. And then I pull over on a brush pile that I know where it's at, basically out in the middle of the lake. Well, kind of out in the middle of the lake. I throw a Jackal chunk crawl over there with a 3/16 ounce tungsten head. It goes down and gets bit, set the hook, 16-inch fish, being the one of only 2 over the limit, so 15 and over limit fish caught in the whole tournament. There was a crap ton of fish taken out of out of Grayson under the slot limit, which was amazing. There was like 55 or 56 fish taken out of there, which is what that slot limit's for, guys. Like, I can't ask you enough to, if you fish Grayson, take your limit of those small fish out of there. If you're eating them, great. Give them to somebody else. Stock a pond. I mean, I think it could be as good as, like, taking them in your live well, finding a creek and turning them loose in the creek. It's just the Yates or Grayson is just absolutely overrun with small fish. You can go out there and catch 40 fish a day if you're throwing a wacky rig or something like that. But there's like 57 fish there. There was an open that night as well. Those guys took all of their short fish out of there too. And on Tuesday of last week, I went out to Grayson on my motorcycle, just riding around, and I pulled down the ramp, and the KDNR was down there with the electro fishing boats. And I had a conversation with those people down there. And I asked them if they were doing a krill survey, because that's normally what they do. They shock up the fish, see how many there are, do the size limit, turn them loose, all that stuff. But they were actually electro fishing it. So anything that was bass that was under that 12-inch limit, they took out of there. They were there for an hour, and they told me they were going back out for 2 more hours that evening. And the first hour, they had like 38 under the slot limit fish that they were taking out of there alive. What they do with those fish, I don't know. I assume that they probably stock other fish or other ponds with them. I'm not sure, but they had a big live tank, and they had an aerator and stuff going on. So there was a lot of stuff going on there at Grayson. It was a really good deal. And so that, that kind of brings me to the situation of my boat. I knew going in that, first off, bass fishing is one of the most expensive sports on the planet. If anybody tells you that golf is it, tell them they're crazy. You go out and buy you could at the high end. I don't know what they cost, but I imagine a really high end set of golf clubs probably set you back like $5,000. So if you have a really high end set of golf clubs, like $5,000, and maybe you pay $50 a weekend to play 18 holes of golf, that's we're pulling $100,000 boats with $70,000 or $100,000 trucks, putting $200 worth of fuel in them to win $65 in a club tournament. We're not real smart. I never said we're real smart, but eventually all outboard motors, no matter if they are the highest end or the lowest end, they're all going to blow up at some point or have some kind of major issues that you can't fix. And I'm at that point right now with my boat. I was trying to sell my boat, and this is not a slight on me at any point. I was not trying to stick somebody with my boat. My boat is an excellent boat. I love my boat. It's been extremely well taken care of. You'll not find a nicer 2006 boat out there, especially a Stratus, in my opinion. I've taken really good care of it since I had it. The 2 people that owned it before I did took very good care of it. They didn't hardly use it. I'm the 3rd owner. When I bought it, there was only 94 hours on the motor. So it was practically a brand new boat. So I've used it for the last 9 years, and it's got like 328 hours on it right now. But the injectors are giving me fits, and I don't know what it is. There is a filter on the side of the motor, kind of looks like an oil filter, but it's a water separating fuel filter. So it filters all the fuel before it gets to my injectors. The injectors have been cleaned. I replaced the fuel filter prior to this year, so it's not full. It's not like letting sediment go through it. But for some reason, the injectors on an Evinrude boat that I have just keep dropping out, and I have no clue why. The issue with this is that there's a lot that goes into the injectors of an E-TEC. This is one of the major downfalls of the engine. One of them is that the EMM, or the electronic motor module, is actually liquid cooled. So whatever engineer out there that said, you know what, I'm going to run water through the main computer of this boat, and it's going to work great. Well, whoever did that needs kicked right square in the buttocks, because water in and around electronics, never a good deal. So about 5 years ago, I had some mud get sucked up in my lower unit, went up in my EMM, didn't let the water run through it, ended up burning up one side of the EMM. Still run my boat, everything was fine, but it would not charge my battery. So there was like when I was running down the lake, my alternator would not charge my battery on my starting battery. So eventually, throughout the day, my battery would die. Ended up costing me like $1,600 to get that thing replaced. But at this point right now, I've put probably close to $3,000 worth of injectors on this boat, and I'm saying that on a low end. And now you can't find them, so that I'm at this point now where I trade my boat in and take an absolute throttling. Like I would just get just throwing good money at bad or bad money at good at that point, or buy a new motor. Obviously, the great thing about it is that my boat is in great condition. So my thoughts are that I'm going to buy a new motor. Know that they're expensive. I knew that they were expensive, but I had no clue that they are as expensive as they are. And right now, I mean, I'm getting an absolute. I think I'm getting a good deal. I got two options going on right now. Matter of fact, Aaron Strickland sent me one from Duck River Marine. They have one with like 122 hours and 2-year warranty left on it for like $14,900 down there. But you're looking at $25,000 for a new 4-stroke Mercury motor. And that's with a Torque Master lower unit, and that also does not come with a propeller. It doesn't come with a prop. You have to supply that. And it also doesn't come with gauges. Well, at $25,000, you're getting controls and gauges. You still are anywhere from $800 to $1,200 for a prop. And most of the props that are running on those are Fury props. And I've seen more ears thrown off of those things than freaking chew toys for dogs. They're just like they're notorious for throwing ears off of those props, which is crazy. But long story short, I've now dove into the fact that I'm going to have to buy a new motor for my boat if I want to keep fishing. It's either quit fishing or buy a new motor. And let's face it, I'm buying a new motor because fishing is more of a way of life to me than a hobby. And if you guys have seen TV in my area lately, there's a King's Daughters commercial out there with my ugly mug on it, and I said that during the interview, and they stuck with that. So it says, fishing is more of a way of life than a hobby. If I'm not fishing, I'm thinking about it. Matter of fact, which is crazy today, I was at the dentist getting a tooth filled, and my dentist was like, "Hey, man, I was walking through King's Daughters the other day, and he had a picture of me on his phone." I was like, "This is crazy." But, I going to buy a new motor. There's just so much out there to think about. Most people, there's two camps. People say buy a show. There's other people that say buy a Mercury. The people that say buy a show will have 9,000 things to tell you that a Mercury does bad. If the people that are telling you to buy a Mercury, they'll tell you 7,000 things that the show does bad. But I do know one thing: a Yamaha show is about $3,000 to $4,000 more expensive than a Mercury. They both basically have the same warranty, 7-year warranty. Normally, sometimes you can catch the Yamaha to have an 8-year warranty, and sometimes you can get what's known as I think it's platinum warranty through Mercury, which is wiring. It's like basically tip to top, lower unit to the top end, wiring and all. But it's huge decision. Hey, Josh. Yeah, man, I love it. It's a great boat. I really don't. Yes, but I'm looking at this. I have looked at the Yamaha, so they're about $3,000. Dude, let me tell you, Lake St. Clair, by the way, is it's crazy. Like it is nuts how much you'll get spoiled at Lake St. Clair. I will tell you, this year it is down for some reason. It's been really tough. I've been there twice this year. 3 years ago, I absolutely had one of the best years of my entire life up there. It is awesome. But that said, St. Clair on a down year, still pretty daggone awesome. We caught like 50 one day when I was up there, and we're like, yeah, you know what? We usually catch 100 plus, but we're not catching 50 a day at home, especially you're catching 3 to 5 pounders, which is crazy. And Mike, yeah, I saw that you were actually running a new motor on your boat the other day. Gary, you are right. BOAT stands for bust out another 1,000. Sweet, man. 294s are awesome boats. That one of the things that leaves a bad taste in my mouth about Mercury, is the fact that these motors are a better part of $30,000. If you're talking about a 250 Pro XS with a Torque Master lower unit, gauges, because you have to have at least one gauge. It's called a SmartCraft gauge through Mercury. That shows you all of your error codes and all your beep codes and all that stuff. It has to be there. And you have to have controls. And I'm going from Evinrude to Mercury, so the controls don't line up. They don't work. So I'm going to have to buy new controls. What I mean by controls, that's going to be like the shifter. My hot foot and everything is going to work just fine. But, there's this. One of the things that I think is weird about the Mercury is the fact that they claim it is okay for their engines to burn engine oil. And this is not coming from a two-stroke realm. If it was a two-stroke engine, of course it's going to burn oil because it, puts oil into the fuel, mixes it, and burns it, and that's what lubricates the cylinders. Well, this is a four-stroke. It has engine oil just like any other four-stroke, just like your truck or your car. It lubricates the cylinders by having an oil pump, pumps oil from the sump up into the cylinders, keeps it cool and lubricated that way. The rings on the cylinders on the pistons keep the oil at bay and doesn't keep it. It keeps it from going into the combustion chamber, the cylinder combustion area. They claim that these 250 Pro XSs are considered racing engines, and it is totally acceptable for them to burn engine oil. What I mean by this is that you may be running down a lake and it goes into limp mode unless you have checked your oil, because it's burning oil as you run it, depending on how much you run it. And I've talked to some people that says their motors never use anything. But I could tell you, it cost a Mercury motor cost me making the Toyota Series regional championship, or the championship for the Toyota Series last year. I needed to catch one fish both days of the tournament. Even if I didn't make the cut the third day, I would make the regional. I ended up catching 17 pounds one day at the it was at the St. Lawrence River, which is a crazy place to fish, by the way. I had 17 pounds, which is on the low side for that place. I'm lying to you. I had 15 pounds. I had 15 pounds. It was on the low side. We're heading back in. We got 15 minutes to make it back to the ramp. I can see the ramp. He can see the ramp. Boat goes into limp mode. Won't let him go over like 1,200 RPM. So we had to basically idle the last mile that we had. I had 15 pounds. We were 16 minutes late. It's 1 pound per minute you're late up until 18 minutes. And then guess what? I blanked the first day. So it caused me to miss the Toyota Series championship because of that motor. It is all I'm sure they all do that, but it's crazy. I do like the fact that I have 7-year warranty if I buy a new Mercury. Again, I think the Yamaha have 7-year warranties as well. And it is, it's just kind of a toss-up. I'm working with Strick here at Strick's Marine, and also Chris Malone at Malone's Marine to try to get the best deal as possible. Both of them are helping me out the best they can. The issue right now that I'm seeing is interest rates are stupid, man. First off, don't tell them that you're going to look for anything recreational, because if you tell them you're looking for a recreational personal loan, you might as well freaking break out the bank, because they're going to try to hit you with like 15% interest, which is crazy. Best I could find this week has been like 8.5%, 8.3%, I think, which is crazy. Even going through Mercury directly from them, interest rates were higher than that. Which is crazy. They must be selling so many motors that they can just charge whatever they want, which is probably true. But that's kind of where we're at right now with On Another Line. We're right now working on. You guys are seeing videos come out practically every day or so with shorts and all that other stuff. But the fishing side of things for me is definitely going to be a little bit more towards bank fishing here in the next few weeks. I have created a goal. Obviously, you guys know I have a goal to catch a bass in all 50 states. Been working on that. Checked off 5 states this year already alone. I'm looking at doing Illinois here soon. Once I get my boat back together, I'm going to camp in Illinois and go catch a fish there. So that'll be 6. I'm flying to Utah at some point this year for work. So hopefully I can check out 7 states for this year, which is all I can ask for. That's a ton of states, and I'm okay with that. But I've created a new challenge that I think I can take part in without having my boat on the water. I want to try to see how many Fish Ohio fish I can actually catch. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Ohio, and I'm sure other states have it as well, but the Fish Ohio Recognition Program um, started in 1976. And let's see here. I'll share my screen here with you guys to show you what's going on. And I'm sure you guys have probably heard about it, or have something similar in your area. But you can see here, so the Fish Ohio Recognition Program, if you catch a fish that is over a specific length, which are here, I'll talk about those in just a second, then you will get a pin that looks like this one right here, the Fish Ohio. So the 2025 pin will be a largemouth bass. You can see that here. But a master angler for 4 different species in the same year. So I want to try to catch as many of these Fish Ohio species as possible. I'll make this a little bigger so you guys can see it a little better. I think a lot of these fish can come from the Ohio River, um, which is crazy. But I do have a pleasure boat. I have a rinker that I can go out there and throw some, cut bait, try to catch some catfish. A blue catfish at 35 inches long is pretty good size. Another thing, these can't be caught in a pay lake or anything like that. But again, 35, especially like so the bowfin will be pretty tough. I do know where there's some private ponds way out in the country that I've caught some bowfin at, but 23-inch bowfin, that's a pretty big one. Bullhead, which is going to be like yellow belly, I think they call them. Most creeks have bullhead catfish in them. 14 inches long, pretty good size for that one. A 28-inch carp, that ought to be a no-brainer in the river or somewhere. I actually caught a carp the other day on a topwater bait. Throwing a popper, carp comes up, slurps it under. I set the hook, and luckily it came off. But I know it was thinking it was a cicada. It was pretty crazy. But I think like a carp would be pretty easy to catch. A 26-inch channel cat out of the river would be pretty easy to do from the bank. Crappie might be a little tougher. Probably looking at a private pond or something to catch a 13-inch crappie. Flathead, definitely out of the river. 35-inch flathead or shovelhead is a giant fish. 35 inches is a pretty good size. This hybrid striped bass, I think, will be a decent one that you could catch out of the river. A 20-inch largemouth out of the river is cutting it close. Probably not going to catch one of those. That's going to be a private pond thing too. Long nose gar, 34 inches, easily done out of the Ohio River. They are in there. I've seen them. I've caught them on crankbaits. And muskie, a 40-inch muskie is big. This may not be possible. If I get my boat back and going, I might be able to go down to like Kinnickinnick or somewhere down that way in the Meldal Pool. There's a lot more muskie down that way, it seems like, than anywhere else. Might be able to catch a 40-inch muskie, but that's a big one. Not going to catch a northern pike around this area that I know of. 9-inch rock bass is pretty big. I think a 16-inch sauger could be fairly easily done on the river. It could be later in the year, October, November, something like that. 15-inch spotted bass could happen on the river. They're out there. The river right now is loaded with spotted bass. Catching a 15-incher might be a little tough. And a sunfish at 9 inches. But if you look here, apply to inland lakes or reservoirs, the Ohio River, private ponds, inland. So these are the smallmouth, 18-inch smallmouth on the river, probably pretty tough to do. 25-inch walleye, may be able to do that down to dam again this winter. 14-inch white bass, pretty simplistic, I think, on the river. And, there's a lot more for Lake Erie. They're a lot bigger on Lake Erie. But the cool thing about this is that it gives me something to do and kind of like strive for and make some videos on without having my boat. And when I do have my boat, it'll just give me, it'll allow me to kind of outstretch my wings a little bit and catch other species other than largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. You talking about the Mercury that I was in there with the dude or the Evener? I couldn't both. So I would say if you're talking about the Mercury, you could be right. But there was another guy there that was talking about it. He had the same stuff too. But you're probably right. Somebody probably didn't put enough oil in it or whatever. I have, man. So I was getting through Chris Malone. I was going to get a demo deal. Showed me an invoice of what a boat. I was looking at a Phoenix 721 ZX, or I'm sorry, yeah, the 721 ZXL, which is a brand new boat for Phoenix for this year. Really cool layout. Really like the boat. Done a walk around video about it a few weeks ago, or few months ago actually. Had my mind set on that. So I've been trying to sell my boat again, not because I've had motor trouble. It really hasn't been that bad, but I just was trying to get into a new boat. But the price on the boat, even at dealer cost at invoice, like he was literally going to give me his cost plus tax and rigging. So whatever the rigging was, I'm not going to give the guys a number, but trust me, it was a great deal. I'm not going to find a better deal on the planet probably for what because again, he wasn't making a quarter off of me. It was going to be like a demo deal through, Chris, because we're helping him, promote the show, and he tries to help us out whenever possible. But I was looking at even at like decent interest rates, like 4 to 5%. You're looking at probably like $500 to $600 a month for 15 years, which that's another mortgage. I don't have a mortgage right now, which is great. My house is paid off. I'm really thankful for that. But I can go $20,000 in the hole buying a new motor for my boat, or $85,000 in the hole to buy a new boat. I was going to go the new boat route, just because I guess I'm bougie. Like there's nothing wrong with my boat. Fish is great. Doesn't it does exactly what I need it to do. Anything that goes wrong with it, as far as like bilge pumps and stuff, they're fairly easy to replace. If I put a new motor on there, basically the only thing, knock on wood here, that would go wrong would be batteries, and that's something they're consumable. You're going to have that anyway. So I have a Ultrex Quest that is less. Well, it's about a year and a half old now. I got two Solix 15 Gen 3s on there. I have an LVS 34 black box and transducer, and one of the 126 Ultra Garmin's. I wish I'd have went with the Echo Map, so I could kind of attach it to my phone and show you guys some of the stuff I'm catching. If I had to do it all over again, that would be the only thing I'd do different. And I have a Powerhouse Lithium 160 amp hour battery running my electronics and starting my boat, which, best of the best in my opinion. And I have three Odyssey PCM 2160 extreme batteries running my trolling motor, which they're lead acid, but they're crazy awesome. So like literally, the wiring's good. I ran a 0 gauge wire, which is way overkill, from my battery to an on-off switch up to a distribution panel, and all my electronics and stuff running off that distribution panel that are all fused. So there's a lot of stuff that I've done to my boat that would be no different than a new boat. Yeah, I'd have new stuff like rocker switches and all that stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, is it going to help me out? Probably not. I'm still not going to be able to catch fish. Yeah, man, there's no chance of me going pro. No way. I have, Dale. I've looked at those things, but it's not that I'm an absolute speed demon. Doesn't really affect you once you get up to like 50 plus mile an hour. What's an extra few miles per hour? But everybody claims the Suzukis lose like 5 to 7 miles per hour on top end than most boat motors. As far as I know, I haven't done a lot of research, but I think Suzuki has a 10-year warranty on them. I think that's what everybody goes crazy about, and I think they work good. I talked to a fellow the other day that claimed, and this is probably true, they're probably just as slow as Suzuki, but this dude claimed that he actually worked for the DNR, and he was telling me that, if Honda motors are the way to go, which, guys, Honda engines are freaking awesome. I own 2 Honda generators, are the quietest things ever. They sip gas. But there's no one around here that sells them, and there's nobody here that actually does any kind of maintenance on them. So you'd be driving like 2 hours from here to get maintenance done on the motor if you needed it done. So that's why I've kind of chose between the Show and the Mercury is on average $3,000 to $4,000 cheaper than the Show, and they have the same warranty. And I'm gonna be looking at gauges and stuff for both. Yeah, man, I did. So Chris Malone had two of them. He had two of the 20-footers. First off, I don't know why anybody would want a 21-foot Icon. The 20-foot Icon has more freaking room in it than I've ever seen. If you guys didn't see my video on YouTube, you should go check it out. Talking about the Icon that he had, he sold both of them now. But the center console or the center compartment that where all your tackle and stuff would go, I'm not a small guy. I mean, I'm vertically challenged. I'm like 5'10", 5'11", and I'm 225 pounds, right? I'm not a small fellow, but I could fit in the center console of that Icon, literally, like, and shut the door. And it's crazy. Was I cramped in there? Sure, but we're talking about a whole human being in that thing. It's crazy. If you got into a big giant storm, you could definitely get in there and get out of it if you wanted to. And that's the thing about it. Like I would love to be able to afford one of those boats, but as a high school teacher, unless my YouTube channel just goes through the roof, but let's face it, it's not going to probably. Not going to be able to afford an Icon. I wish. Yeah, man, I agree. I love my 201 Pro XL. I like it a lot. Matter of fact, if you do a lot of research, the guy that actually owns Phoenix Boats, Gary Klaus, he was the CEO of Stratus Boats back in the day, and then the White River Holdings Group, which is none other than the fellow that owns Bass Pro Shop there. They bought the Stratus Boat Company, shut them down. Just like they've done a lot of companies, like the Legend went the way of Johnny Morris, so did Stratus. There's a lot of different boats. I think if I'm not, I think it's the Champion. I think was the same way. They just buy up all these boats and boat companies and then close them down. One, they're just buying out their competition. I understand that, but again, Gary Klaus is now the CEO and owner of Phoenix Boats, and everybody claims that most of the Phoenix hulls have a similar hull than the 201 Pro XL and the 201 Evolution. It's kind of like a mix between the two. Yeah, so that's what I'm hearing too. Yeah, so my boat, I'm thinking with a four-stroke. I think it's a 75-mile-an-hour boat. I believe so. I'm not sure. Depends on the prop and stuff. My boat right now, fastest I've ever had it, was a half a tank of fuel and none of my fishing gear, zero. It was empty, me, half a tank of fuel. It was 75 mile an hour, but that was with running a 28 pitch raker. That was vented. So you could time it with a sundial to get on pad, but once it got on pad, it was just a freaking rocket. But if I can get, if I can run 70 plus mile an hour with it, I'm happy with that. I think you're right though. I think it's going to be a 75 mile an hour boat. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, you're not wrong. I think the ones that Chris had was like had them marked down. And they were still like $98,000. It's crazy. I mean, I don't look down on people that buy them. Like, shoot, man, if you got that kind of money and you can, let's face it, if you're going to buy a boat, that's disposable income. I didn't think, I didn't think it was disposable income, right? But, somebody basically told me, hey, this is why it is, because if it wasn't disposable income, you wouldn't be buying it. And that's true. It's a hobby. It's like buying golf clubs, really expensive golf clubs. But, I look at it as a way that, if you go out there and you work your end off, like I'm getting older. I'm not that old. I'm 41 years old. But the thing about, life, when you think about life like that, you have a lot of things that kind of hit you where in the feels, the fact that, you see all these people, like I know, like my dad, for example, my dad worked for, 40 plus years of his life, hard labor, worked at Osco Industries. He retired, lived 3 years or 4 years after he retired, passed away. I want to try to, live my life now because eventually, with fishing, you're not going to be able to get in a boat all the time. You're not going to be able to go fishing by yourself all the time. So there's a lot of stuff there that goes on that, there's a point where you're not going to be able to fish anymore. So I want to try to do it now. And that's the way most people are doing it too. And, I see so many like haters online. They're like, oh, I can't believe you bought a $150,000 bass boat. Like if I had a job where I made that kind of money, I would have no problem buying a $150,000 bass boat because that's the reason that you have that job. And I tell my students in high school all the time that money and time are indirectly proportional. And what I mean by that is that you can have a lot of money or a lot of time. You're not going to be able to have both unless you start a company that just goes crazy. But I want to try to find somewhere that's in that happy medium, and I think I've found that. Like I don't make excellent money. I'm a high school teacher, but I get like I work 186 days a year. So it's not that I'm like, I make good money for the amount of time that I'm there, but I'm not going to be able to afford $100,000+ bass boat, nor would I want one. If I made $300,000 a year, totally different story, right? That's different income brackets. Yeah, so that's the deal, man. Like I said, I don't know for a fact, but I hear that the Phoenix hull is nothing more than a 201 and a 201 Evolution kind of mixed. Again, Gary Klaus, the guy that owns Phoenix Boats, was the CEO of Stratus. So there are some similarities for sure. You can look at my boat and look at it, and you can tell there's a lot of difference. There's a little bit of difference there. Dude, that's awesome. Dude, that is rocking and rolling in a 19-footer. Yeah, I'm with you there. But it kind of is what it is. But that's just we're 52 minutes into this, guys. Been rambling about my boat. But just to let you guys know, I do have some YouTube videos coming out for you guys soon. I got day 5, 6, and 7 of the trip coming out soon. Last video I posted of the trip, my phone was connected via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi to my graphs in my boat. Well, Wi-Fi allows me to send updates, send waypoints, etc. to my graph. The Bluetooth is so that I can get text message updates on my graph. So like Misty calls me or texts me, my phone a lot of times is in my console. I could see that somebody's calling or trying to text me on my graph. Well, it turns out when you have your phone, drop mine on the phone. When you pick it up and you're trying to record, if you have that connected via Bluetooth, it tries to use that as a microphone. So the second half of the trip where I'm doing these intros and exits to all these videos are on my boat prior to fishing and after fishing, and it never recorded any of the audio. So I had to do a voiceover on the last one. I think that's the way I'm going to do the rest of them. It's just easier to show you guys and talk about what's going on. But hopefully have a new motor on my boat here within the next month or so. If you guys can get out there on Saturday and fish that first responders and veterans tournament out there that Brian and the Marathon Bass League puts on, again, it's $50. You have to be a veteran, first responder, or have somebody in your boat that is. So if you know an aunt, an uncle, this is not strictly male only sport. Get your aunt out there. If she's a nurse or something, take her fishing. It's a really cool tournament. You got a lot of stuff there, great money to win, and it's a great tournament. So we are, going to wrap up this evening. I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to my rambling for about an hour. We do have a couple videos coming out. The tournament this weekend, and JR and I are going to get out too and try to catch some fish. So with that being said, you guys are going to see some pursuit of the Ohio or the Fish Ohio series coming up soon. So again, guys, I appreciate the stuff that you're giving us, man. I appreciate it. I got you, Josh. Just keep it in mind for next year. This is the 4th annual. They do it every year. It's a great tournament. So Again, guys, if you guys haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate it if you will. Matter of fact, midway through this year, talking like August or so, I am going to switch over to doing the live videos only on YouTube. I'm tired of the stuff that's coming along with Facebook. You know, we have 1.5 million views on Facebook, and we have earned $0, and that is crazy. If I had 1.5 million views on YouTube, I would have made like $1,500, which is crazy. But Facebook they don't pay anything, but it is what it is. But again, we're going to be slowly transitioning to only YouTube for the live videos, and we'll be posting on Facebook as well. So we will see you guys next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. If you guys can, get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of On Another Line Live. We truly appreciate your support, and we couldn't do it without all the amazing folks at home watching week after week. A big thank you goes out to our sponsors, who help make this show possible. Malone's Marine, Borders Sporting Goods, Solar Bat Sunglasses, Picasso Lures, Shimano, and Columbia Sportswear. Their partnership allows us to keep bringing you the content you love. We'll see you next time on Another Line. Until then, get out there and lean on them.